Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Jack, this isn't TGI Sports Talk. This is National Streaming Sports. They do that all the time, and it's soon to be renamed. We'll talk more about that soon. But we're here with Jack and Keith Weekend Playbook. I want to welcome in my co-host, boxing Hall of Famer, all-around sports guru, Jack Hirsch. How are you, Jack?
Hey, good, Keith. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everyone out there.
Same to you. Hope everybody had a safe and happy one with their family and friends. Put the show together, and we're on the road again this morning in Connecticut. So one last show out of the studio, and it's always challenging trying to find a place where it's quiet enough, and so Jack can rant, and not bother the rest of the house. Of course, everybody's up since about 3 a.m. here, but we hope everybody had a great holiday. We welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching. Obviously support the groups that you'll see scrolling here at the bottom of the page in a second, because for some reason my banner is gone. There it goes. But lots to talk about today. We had a lot of football, wall-to-wall NFL football yesterday, and some interesting games, some interesting results. Some teams may be falling out of races, maybe getting back in races. Jack, what an interesting day yesterday. We can start wherever you want. I mean, all these games are worth talking about, and some surprises yesterday.
Well, games are magnified now because the playoffs are within sight, and 1 week could open the door or apparently close the door for certain teams. And I guess of the three games, if I had to say there was one single big story, I would think it's the Kansas City Chiefs at this point, 6-6, hanging on by a thread. I mean, but they're the type of team, if the Chiefs somehow get in the playoffs, they could be very dangerous. They could put it together, be very dangerous, but it doesn't seem that way. Last year, they were 15-1 over their first 16 games before they had a throwaway game against the Broncos, the last game of the regular season, which meant nothing at all last year. So they were 15-1, but they were winning all these games by a thread last year. The difference is this year they're 6-6 at this point. They're losing all these games by a thread.
And bad at the end of games. They just weren't. Again, yesterday, I mean, I don't know about you, but I had the feeling they were going to pull this game out near the end again. If you think about the Chiefs of the last 5-6 years, I thought they were going to pull this game out at the end, and they turned the ball over, near the Dallas goal line, and just not, again, good end of game situational football for this team. They shot themselves in the foot over and over. And Dallas is also a big story here too, as they get to, what are they, 6-5-1? What are they now?
6-5-1. People are getting excited about the Cowboys, but if you look at the NFC standings, it's a little bit of a stretch for them to still get in the playoffs. They can still get there because we have to take it week by week, but they can't afford to stumble. The next game's against the Lions. I'm going to tell you, they were 4-5-1 with a 3-game stretch coming up against the Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions. And if you were the Dallas Cowboys, you would have gladly signed up to win 2 of those 3 games. You would have been very happy to do that without question. The coaching staff, the ownership, they would have needed all the 20 seconds to come to that decision, give us 2 out of 3. Well, they've already got 2 in a row. And it's phenomenal. Victories over the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl last year, the Eagles and the Chiefs, and now they have the Lions next week. And maybe I spoke a little too soon in a sense with the Chiefs being the big story. Maybe it's the Lions, because all of a sudden we're turning around and we're looking, and the Lions in danger not making the playoffs.
They're nearly in the same position as the Cowboys, right? They got that half game, a game, I guess, leading in the win column. That tie changed a little bit for the Cowboys. But if we get to, it's going to be interesting if this comes down to win percentage at the end, right? And the Cowboys end up getting in because of that tie. That'd be very interesting. But the Lions
are going to be a half game ahead, a half game behind. The tie simplifies the standings for the Cowboys. They're not going to have to deal with any tiebreakers.
And the Lions, who we keep waiting to break out, just seem to keep shooting themselves in the foot. And maybe I missed this while I was away. Did Dan Campbell take over play calling for this offense? Because it looked like he was calling plays yesterday,
And that doesn't,
calling,
he's
calling plays out
supposedly,
of his butt. This team is good enough. You don't have to do all that tricky nonsense. They almost turned the ball over a couple of different times. They had this reverse and it got thrown backwards to Goff and he fumbles the ball and they averted disaster there. But you can't keep losing to the teams in your division that you're supposed to be better than. And what are they set? So they're 7-5, and they're
they've
on the
lost
outside
both
looking in.
games to Green Bay. So if by some chance the Lions rally a bit and the Packers falter a little bit, the Packers will have to tie break. And let's look at the Chicago Bears. I mean, technically, they win today, they're in first place. I mean, they play at Philadelphia. It's going to be a big chore. And I think the Bears winning streak kind of comes to an end today. Philly, needs this game coming off the loss to Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think many people think the Bears are going to go into Philadelphia today and win. But look what happened yesterday. How many people thought the Bengals would go into Baltimore and win? But it's easy to forget in the preseason, a team like the Bengals were projected to be a good team. And just because they were losing games without Joe Burrow and they had a losing record, we tended to write them off. But with Joe Burrow returning, it was more than just a boost at the quarterback position. I think it picks up the morale of the whole team. It's kind of like a do-over for them again. Oh, we got Joe Burrow. Let's start really playing well, and they did.
They're right in the same position they were last year. I think they were 3-7 last year, and they won their last six or something. They missed out. They were close to something like that. They made a big run, and they got Baltimore again. They still
They
have
got them
Baltimore again,
again,
right?
and we don't. And the Steelers are just so. As crazy as it seems,
They
Cincinnati
could
could
win.
still take a run at the division title.
Do we
They
feel less?
got a lot of work to do, but it's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we feel like the Ravens? I was not impressed with them at all yesterday.
No.
Lamar Jackson turned the ball over at least three times that I saw. I went to bed before the game, and
Keith, I got to believe Lamar Jackson is hurt worse than it's made out to be. We know he's had injury issues. We know he's missed some games. He's
yeah,
back, but he's not the same. Lamar Jackson's greatest strength is running with the football, being elusive. And he hasn't been elusive this year. And he hasn't
no.
gone out of his way to be elusive. All he's tried to do basically is what any other quarterback does, is elude the pass rush. But outside of that, he hasn't taken off and run the same way as before. And you got to believe, injuries are there. He's just not the same right now. And the Ravens had won 5 in a row before yesterday. They're 6-6. They're still in the thick of things. The division's up for grabs. They still have another game, as you pointed out, with the Bengals. So who they're ahead of, so they don't have to worry about the Bengals.
Well,
Yeah,
it's only one game. It's only
right.
one
Well,
game
yeah,
if they
yeah.
win
No,
another
but
one.
at this point, standing wise, they don't
Yeah.
have to worry about the Bengals as long as they play. Well, they have 2 games with the Steelers, who they're even with.
Yeah.
So those games are going to be revealing. Will Lamar Jackson get better as the year goes along? Their offense is out of sync, the Ravens. I'm assuming injuries to Lamar Jackson are the primary reason. But if that's not the primary reason, in a sense, that's a good thing because they have some time to get it together and recapture some of the magic in the past because they have basically the same players like Derrick Henry from last year, Mark Andrews, their great tight end, etc.
And Lamar Jackson just isn't the same player when as you mentioned, he can't move around. His game, he's not a pocket passer, right? And when he's a pocket
He can
passer,
pass in the pocket a little better than given credit for.
I'm not saying he can't. What I'm saying is that's not his game, and that's not what puts pressure on the defense. Him being able to move around and the
Yeah.
threat of him throwing or running. I'd say the Patriots struggle with that type of quarterback for even through their playoff years, their Super Bowl years. They struggled with that type of quarterback every time they faced one, it seemed. And when you take away that big piece of the threat, well, now you only got to defend one thing, and it's a lot easier to do that. And I don't know that Derrick Henry's in a position to carry this team either at his age. He's played well, but and that defense isn't what it was. Although Bengals did almost shoot themselves in the foot with their red zone effort through most of this game. I think at one point Burrow was 1 for 12 inside the red zone yesterday. But coming back from a lot of time off, you expect to be a little rusty, I guess.
Yeah, here's
But
Rusty in the beginning of the game, got better as the game went along. And the Bengals, despite their record, like I said, they were projected by many to be a playoff team, possibly even a Super Bowl contender in the beginning of the year. But things really unraveled for them. And the Bengals traditionally have always gotten off to slow starts. And then they come on late in the year and they make a run. And this year, there was optimism they'd get off to a better start. Trey Hendrickson was hurt, and of course, Burrow being out, and the backup quarterback position turned out to be an issue. They got Joe Flacco, who, of course, would give you one or two good games and people would get excited, but then he would burn out predictably.
I tell you, it's rare on Thanksgiving, even when we had the two games. Now we've got three, obviously, every year. It's rare when even the two of the games would have real playoff implications. We had three yesterday. Of the three losers, who do you think's hurt the most? I think it's the Chiefs. Got hurt the most yesterday with their loss. Lions a close second.
Yeah, not the Ravens, because the Ravens
No,
are right,
they still
they're
control
tied
their
for
own
first
destiny.
basically now. And the, I think the Chiefs. I
I
think
think
the
so too.
Chiefs, because I think if the Lions take care of business the rest of the way, they don't necessarily have to run the table, the Lions. They could still lose one more game, left out of the five. If they win four out of the five, I think it's going to get them in the playoffs. But the
Always,
Chiefs
always,
basically have to win every game. Can the Chiefs
yeah.
afford to lose one more game? If the Chiefs lose one more game, they finish at 10-7. And the only way they get in the playoffs if a team like the Chargers really falters under Jim Harbaugh. Just taking a quick look here, just these standings. I mean, even though I remember, why am I hitting hockey? NHL. I mean, NFL.
we'll
What is
we'll talk some
going?
hockey later in the year.
But if you just take a look, with the Chiefs here, the LA Chargers are 7-4. The Chargers are a game and a half ahead of them. The Jaguars are a game and a half ahead of them, and the Bills are going to make the playoffs. And there's going to be
Definitely.
two more teams in the playoffs. So between the Chargers and Jaguars, basically one of them is going to have to falter. Well,
And
Houston is ahead of them at 6-5, but I
I was
wouldn't be
just gonna,
scared about Houston running the table, anything like that.
but
Someone's going to falter between the Chargers, Jacksonville, Houston. They might need two of them to falter. I don't know what 10-7 get you in there. 11 and the Chiefs are 6-6. 10-7 won't get the Chiefs in because the Chiefs don't have the tiebreak against two of the teams that they lost
no,
to. So it's tough. Patrick Mahomes said they had to run the table, but we always hear that talk where teams say, "Oh, we got to win every game." It sounds good, but
well,
logically speaking, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in a lot of occasions, but in this case for the Chiefs, it does. In reality, they need to go 11-6, and they're 6-6 now. ten and
yeah.
seven, I don't think quite gets them there.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe they don't have to run the table, but when you get to December and you don't control your own destiny, you have to just think every week I got to win. But you can't look ahead. You just got to win
They
this
still got
coming
to
week.
pass a couple of teams. Like I
Yeah,
said, there are a couple of wild card positions available. Buffalo's absolutely going to get one of them. They're not catching Buffalo. They're too good a team. So
I agree.
between the Chargers, Jacksonville, and Houston, they're going to have to beat two out of three of those teams. I'm not even discussing the Ravens and Steelers, who are 6-6. Okay,
Somebody there could
I
go out.
assume
Yeah.
the Steelers aren't that good, so I
No.
wouldn't worry about them per se. But
If 9 wins comes into play and Cincinnati runs the table, they are in the mix too. So
well,
if 9 wins is
since
in
he's
play,
Cincinnati is 4-8, so logically speaking, they have four
they're
and
gonna
eight
win it.
both games. They have 5 games to go. So
9 wins. That's it.
Cincy, they could win their 5 games and they could be 9-8. Cincy's not getting there, but any small chance since he does have of making the playoffs means they really do have to win their last 5 games. So Cincinnati's out of it. Let's be honest about it. They're out of it. Too many early season losses. They didn't leave enough wiggle room like they did certain seasons in the past where they could overcome the slow start.
Their best path to the playoffs would be to win the division because they got the best record in the division
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. I'm
And,
talking about it's a wild card.
yeah.
That's
Oh, it's a
all I'm
wild card.
talking about now. Exactly.
Yeah. Before the
Cincy is,
season, I thought 9 wins would have a shot, but I'm not seeing it myself now. I think 10's going to be the number.
if Cincy runs the tip, 9-8 can still maybe win that division with the Steelers.
I'm at wild card. Yeah, wild card.
Not as a wild card, but for the division. So Cincy has an
Yeah.
outside chance, a much better chance of coming on late and winning the division than being a wild card.
It's so funny because other than Joe Burrow not having played, this is almost an instant replay of last year for Cincinnati. They put themselves in a very safe position and they made the big run at the end of the year,
Yeah.
but fell just short. And that's probably what's going to happen here this year, I would think. But
And
it's fun to see them get back in it.
Yeah, the Detroit Lions situation is
a little more dire.
Yeah, a little more dire. They're 7-5, the Lions. Yeah, but you want to know, but they don't have the Lions' problem is this: the Packers are 8-3-1, so the Lions would have to make up 2 games on the Packers. The good thing that the Lions have going for them there, if the Packers falter, there won't be a tiebreaker situation that would go against the Lions because they lost both to Green Bay because the Packers played a tie earlier this year against the Cowboys. If the Lions can make 2 games up on the Packers, the Lions would actually pass them. It would because of the tie. So and then there's the Bears, who are 8-3 in first place. I wouldn't be scared of the Bears unless the Bears win today. If the Bears go into Philadelphia and they win, I'll go, wow.
We all keep disrespecting the Bears and Caleb Williams and they're in first place in that division. So today's a big game for them. They can really show they belong if they win today.
You got it right, Keith. If they win today, they'll show they belong. But I kind of feel they'll show they don't belong, by losing today. But it doesn't mean they can't win other games going forward. It's just the Bears aren't that good. When we talk about potential Super Bowl winners, Super Bowl teams, no one's thinking the Bears. Who gives a darn what their record is? Even the Cowboys would get more respect of being a potential Super Bowl threat than the Chicago Bears would be. Bears have won a ton of close games this year, just like they lost them last year. It's a great story that they're winning games, but they're just not that strong a team, I don't think.
I don't either. Scott's mentioning that. Good morning, Scott Colby and Donna Gibson. We see you out there. Good morning. Happy day after Thanksgiving. Scott says right now the Chiefs lose every tiebreaker, which is why yesterday was such.
Well, they lost. That's for a couple of other teams.
Yeah.
But it's bad. It's a Chiefs situation style, like I said, Scott. A lot of times we hear teams say they have to run the table, but the Chiefs really have to win their next 5 because of tiebreakers. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you got to think of yourself like a college team, the way college teams used to think they can't lose a game, because if you lose 1 game, you're not winning the national championship. That was the mentality years ago. So the Chiefs have to win 5 in a row and then 3 in a row in the playoffs. So if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, your mentality has to be 8 games to get to the Super Bowl. We can't lose 1. And that's what you gotta work off a sheet like that. Everyone's handed a sheet. No room for error. Gotta win all 8 games. There's no way around it. There's no wiggle room anymore.
Yeah, the tiebreakers. When you leave yourself open to tiebreakers, you haven't done your job anyway. Because you need to eliminate that possibility. Because once you go down the list a little bit, anything can happen. And when you don't control your own destiny, you got to hope for other teams to lose. That's not a good situation.
Yeah, I
What
mean, how
Chicago
many
got here?
second chances do you get?
Chicago's got Green Bay twice. That'll be a big
We
barometer
don't
for
know.
them as
You
well.
can't look ahead and you can't project wins and losses with
Yeah.
certain teams because I mean, it's so easy to project. If you're the Baltimore Ravens, you would have thought you were winning yesterday's game when you look at your schedule. They won five in a row. You know, Joe Burrow's coming back. You think he's got to be a little rusty, off form. We've won five in a row. We need this game, you know, because we're battling Pittsburgh for the top spot in the division. You know, we'll be in first place if we win this game in control. And the Ravens were just bad yesterday.
Yeah. And Scott obviously is not
And,
a
and,
Chicago
and
believer.
listen, and look at the Cowboys. They beat in a four-game period both teams that went to the Super Bowl. The Eagles and the Chiefs, especially coming down from down 21-0 to the Eagles, phenomenal to beat them. But if you look at their games early in the season, they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. Come on.
Yeah. Donna is one of those odd people. I don't mean to call you odd, Donna. I mean just in general because she's a Bears and an Eagles fan. I found out on the Wednesday night show. So you can't lose today. Look at it that way, Donna. You can't lose. So
I don't see the link with the Eagles and the Bears. I don't really
she
see the
she explained
rivalry.
it. She explained it Wednesday, and I don't remember what it was. But
Okay, yeah.
see, I'm not a guy. I'm a guy. I root for my team. That's all I root for. I mean, if I bet a team, I'll root for them to win a game. But I'm not rooting for anybody but my team.
You know, I'll watch a game, and for whatever reason, I'll find myself rooting for one team or the other. A lot of times, there won't be any rhyme or reason to it. There won't be any
Yeah.
logic. I don't know what it is, but you know, I'll just start rooting.
I know you were one of those closet Tom Brady and Patriot fans for those 20 years. I know
I can't remember ever rooting for the Patriots. I'm thinking,
maybe
you
the
know,
70s when they were no good.
no, yeah, maybe during the days of Jim Nance, you know, back in the day. Yeah, yeah.
Every show
No,
you got to tell people how old we are.
yeah, I'm going to tell you, and people forget, they keep thinking about running backs. Jim Nance was kind of, in a way, maybe not quite as good as
Yeah,
Derrick Henry of his day, and a little under Derrick Henry, don't get me wrong, but you could categorize him as such in a sense.
yeah. I remember now. Donna said she's an Eagles
Boston
fan.
Patriot running back.
Yeah, I remember Jim Nance for sure. I'm 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 old. I'm not quite as old as you, but I'm old. So,
Gino Capoletti.
Gino Capoletti, by the way, big push by some of the people in Boston to get Gino in the Hall of Fame. By the way,
He's not in the
I didn't
Hall
know
of
that.
Fame
He's not in the Hall of Fame. No,
because he was an AFL guy, not an
that's where he
NFL.
did. Yeah, he did most of
But
his damage
there
there.
are a number of AFL guys in the Hall of Fame. I
There
mean,
is, and I think Gino Capoletti, he
Lance
did it all,
Holbrook,
man.
Don Maynard.
Yeah, he was a guy who doing it all when guys weren't running and catching the ball all the time, and he kicked
Yeah, he
too.
played. He was a kicker. He was a
Yeah,
receiver. He did it all. Gino
he was a great
Capoletti.
player.
Yeah.
Real quick, Scott. Also, we were talking about Lamar being injured. He's very injured. I think so too, and I think maybe
Yeah,
they'd
I
be better off
believe
him not
so.
playing.
I believe that's the case. And you know what it is? Most teams don't have a high profile backup quarterback. If they did, you would have to show some tough love to your start if your coach and tell him you can't play. Just because you can physically take the field, I question how effective you are. I'm sorry about it. But unfortunately, the vast majority of teams don't have really capable backups. I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds bad. When I say capable, I mean the type of backups
there's a handful.
who you would want, who you're not going to lose too much with if they're quarterbacking. You know, actually, when I was in college, I took a football course, believe it or not. And I remember what the professor, who was actually a guy named Jerry Evans, he was a former All American at Penn State, he said, your backup who's completely healthy is better to have in than your starter who's injured. Kind of makes me think, and there's a lot of times there's something to that. Don't get me wrong, an injured Tom Brady would be better than a healthy Brian Hoyer. I
That's your
mean, I'll
boy.
give, I'll give you that much.
That's your boy.
But in certain cases, if you have a really good backup there, you know, you kind of should go with him as long as he's healthy and you're winning with him. Like Uh, Davis Mills, okay, with these Texans now. If he's playing well and CJ Stroud is injured but but well enough to play but compromised, I would
I,
stick with the backup,
with that
in that
defense, yeah.
situation.
When you got a defense like that, your quarterback doesn't need to win the games for you. That's a good call there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
He doesn't need
Uh,
to win the game, but he can run the offense. Yeah, absolutely.
you nobody was barely. I was barely a Patriot fan when Rod
Oh,
Russ was the coach. He was a one in
Russ.
15. He's the worst coach in the history of the
Wait, who
NFL.
was the coach back in the day? Chuck Fairbanks, right?
Well, Fairbanks was there in the early '70s. Came from Oklahoma. Got them.
Yeah.
That team got really good, by the way. They even got screwed a couple times in the playoffs against Oakland. One horrible one out in Oakland, and then he left again. It was like a Bill Parcells exit. He left and took the Colorado job before the season was over. They fired him. Then he came back and coached the last game of the year. It was just a mess when he left. But he was a good football coach. He got that franchise heading in the right direction in the '70s when they were awful. But Rod Russ was a coach just before, well, not a couple years before Parcells got there. He went 1-15. That was the last year we had season tickets. I sat through every game of that 1-15 season.
Wow,
You know,
wow,
you're
wow.
paid.
That's dedicated. I sat through all the home games when the 2 years after Jets won the Super Bowl, they were 4-10 that year. They were a lot of injuries. Namath was
Yeah.
out, so on. And
Rick, I don't know what that's for.
Raymond Berry, people forget, was the Patriot coach and took them to a Super Bowl where they got annihilated by the Chicago Bears 46-10. Raymond Berry was a great receiver with the Baltimore Colts. I mean, he was a master at running routes, great hands, a guy
Yeah.
a little before his time, not talent wise, not with his physicality, but certain elements of the NFL have improved so much over the years. And I'm not talking about players being bigger, faster. That's debatable how much better they are in that regard. But the kicking game is improved by miles, how far they can kick field goals. Because years ago, 50 yards was a monster kick,
Oh,
a monster kick.
absolutely.
And the receivers are phenomenal what they can do today. In the past, they would never make those type of catches.
It's interesting you mentioned special teams, and you mentioned Ray Berry. When Ray Berry came in there to New England, he was a he just let guys do their jobs. He wasn't, running. He wasn't calling plays. He wasn't doing all this stuff. He was just a CEO basically. But that team had great special teams, and special teams today is really making a comeback. I was telling Rick Sherlock, who I don't know what your not means here, Rick, but you can tell me what not means. Good morning to you. Rick is a huge special teams guy. When he played, he was a big special teamer.
Well, that's all. Rick wasn't good enough to hold a regular position.
Wow, he is.
They put him on special teams where he
Well,
played.
you set yourself. Rick, you set
That's what they
yourself up
do.
for that.
Guys who they want to keep on the team aren't quite good enough for their backups. They're special teamers.
Now I feel
usually
bad.
don't put your starters on special teams,
Sure
kids.
you do.
You want them to you want them resting up for the most part. Don't misunderstand
There are a
me.
lot of guys who play
If
special
there's an
teams all day, every day.
onside kick, you want your good hands players there. So you're going to have receivers, someone who could get a bouncing ball and, garner it in.
I will tell you that special teams is making a comeback. There's a big article in SI this month, actually, all about the revival of special teams and how teams are really putting such a focus on it. Not just kickers who can kick the ball 70 yards, it seems, at will, but just the game itself. And since we're on this little sidetrack, when they put the new kicking rules in last year, I hated them. I've come to think I'm coming to enjoy the kickoff part of it. The onside kick where I got to tell you I'm doing it is stupid. I hate that. But the whole thing with lining the guys up and having the kick zone, I'm starting to come around to the fact that it's adding something to the games. I don't know how you feel, but I rarely come around on these new rules, and I have on this one.
Yeah, you get used to any new rules. I mean, even like in baseball, putting a run on second base to start. And you hate that, but you get used to it after a while. What I don't like about the new rules on the kickoffs is that teams are virtually guaranteed, as long as they don't botch things up, of decent field position. They're going to get the ball over the 30-yard line. And considering how far kickers could kick the ball now, field goal kickers,
Yeah.
it, you know, I'm going to tell you, Keith, you get past midfield and you're in range for virtually any kicker to try a field goal attempt.
Well, two things. I do agree with you that it's much easier to get the ball out past the 30 on a regular basis. But the emphasis on special teams is now on the defensive part of that to keep guys from doing that, right? If they Some teams will just kick the ball in the end zone and give you the ball wherever. I don't know where they put it. I guess they put it at the 30 right now if it goes in the end zone, or you missed a kick zone. Um, but a lot of teams, the good special teams coaches, are really coaching guys to keep them still at
Yeah.
the 20 or 25-yard line. The other
Keith,
thing is, one more thing, and I'll let you go. With
I
the
hate,
kicking,
yeah.
with the kicking, and I'm not a big guy for changing rules. Something's got to happen because we can't have guys kicking 70-yarders on a regular basis because it's going to become a field goal freaking contest right and left, and I don't want to see that. Punters won't matter anymore. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Justin Tucker. Okay, he's eligible to sign with any team now. He served his 10-game suspension. Reasons I won't get into. It's pretty distasteful. Uh, a team didn't pick
Yeah,
him up yet.
I don't think
Normally, you
anybody's
think
gonna.
a team would pick him up pretty quickly.
He
They
worked
look
out
at
with
all their woes.
somebody. Who did he work out with? The Saints? I feel he visited
Well, he had
somebody.
an off year last year. In
Yeah,
actuality, he what? But considering his pedigree, what he's done on his career, at one point being the best kick in the NFL, and kickers do make comebacks. Kickers have been known to have a so-so year, and then the next
yeah,
year come back and get back in form. And also,
yeah. I
you
do.
talk about special teams. Chip Kelly got let go as the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders. And the reports coming out now that he really was screwing things up. He was calling plays that weren't really being practiced. Geno Smith would come to the line of scrimmage and wonder, like, what the heck is going on? This isn't something that they went over, and then he'd have to make a quick decision. And Pete Carroll moved on from him, and he was Pete Carroll's guy. And reportedly, Tom Brady, who's a minority owner with the Raiders and has some say, reportedly, he wanted Chip Kelly as well. But it's a mess with the Raiders right now. I'm going to tell you
Are
something,
falling a
Steve.
lot.
My feeling is this about head coaches. You see them dismiss assistants whenever things aren't going well. If I'm the owner, I have very little sympathy for that head coach to have patience with them because my logic is you don't have patience with the guys you hired and you move on from them when things are going rough. I'm going to move on from you then.
Yeah,
Why should I stick with you if you don't stick with them?
yeah.
I,
Chip
I
Kelly's.
sometimes think I sometimes think of Steve Phillips in baseball when he was the Met GM. He purged the coaches one afternoon, just fired a bunch of them. If I were the owner of the Mets then, I was so mad, I'd call him to my office and say, Steve, you get on the phone and you apologize to every single one of them and beg them to come back. Because if they don't come back, you're fired yourself. And I'm also on top of that, Steve, I'm banning you from going in the clubhouse before games. Understand? I'm in charge of the managers and the coaches' destiny. You're not. You handle these other roles.
Fair.
But Steve Phillips, bright baseball mind, who should be a GM, he does Major League Baseball network talks. I enjoy listening to him, but that's where he belongs. He doesn't belong in a GM chair. But other GMs in football, they tend to be in charge of the coach's destiny, and I don't like the owner just backing off that way because if you have to keep making switches, it comes to you, back to you. That's why I'm all for owner involvement. I really am, as long as the owner doesn't go overboard with too much meddling.
I 100% believe coaches need to have control over their coaching staff. Baseball, football, I
But
don't
if
care
you
what we're
have to
talking about.
but if you keep firing them, you make changes I would let the head coach know, no, you stick with the guys you hired
Well, that's
because
different.
there's a problem if you don't. I'm going to have to move on from you. You take Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. He was let go by Miami. I had sympathy for him at the time. I thought he was a really good young coach, real good, and I couldn't understand him being let go. Then I realized he routinely would fire, I shouldn't say routinely, but he would sometimes fire his assistants. If he's going to fire his assistants, what goes around comes around. Tough luck, guy.
I'm okay when you're talking about owners getting involved. If they're going to get involved with the coaches and say you can't, you should fire this because, by the way, you fire a guy, somebody's got to pay his salary once he gets fired. That's the
I'm
owner.
sorry, Jim Gray cause. I'm sorry. This got posted. I'm sorry to cut in, Keith.
That's all right. This is Scott talking about the mess, and I don't know the story Jim Gray
No,
posted.
Jim Gray's a boxing guy too. He interviews guys
Yeah,
in the ring. I've never been, you know, I met Jim Gray once. I mean,
I'm not a
I
big
don't
fan.
see what problems that Jim Gray could actually be causing. I mean, what clout would Jim Gray have? It doesn't make
He,
sense to me.
he's got his own blog, I think. I don't think he's got a real
He has
job
a
anymore.
blog. Who cares? I mean,
So you can elaborate if you want there, Scott. And Scott talked about Tucker hasn't gotten a job. He did go to New Orleans to talk, but
yeah, we know
they're
all
not going to
that. We
want.
know the reason why Tucker, no
Nobody
one
wants to deal with it.
he
Nobody wants
dealt
to
with
deal with
it
that.
now. They're a little concerned about potential backlash.
What are the games? Let's take a look at some of the other games this weekend, real quick. That are big games. Colts and Titans is a big game. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. You could argue every game has
Well, look at they all
implications
have. I'm not,
in
but
the
again,
game.
I expect the 49ers to go and beat the Browns, and I expect the Jaguars to beat the Titans. I'm looking at games between good teams, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
because we're gonna have a
no, but
limited time.
Even 49ers Browns, that's a marquee game. People want to see
Well,
Shador Sanders,
yeah, I
a
agree. I
follow-up
agree.
game. He managed the last game he won. I gave him a B, a grade, a B. He didn't do anything. I don't want to hear he threw a touchdown pass. He dumped off a screen pass. That was
I'm glad you.
one.
I'm glad you went here. We had a conversation in the chat the other day, and it's going to happen. He's going to either get way too much credit or he's going to get way too much blame, and he's not going to get a chance to grow as a quarterback if that happens. He's going to have bad games. He's going to have bad series. He's going to have bad plays. The whole idea is he gets better. He gets better and better. I'm not talking about you know.
But he
I'm
doesn't have the
sorry.
novelty, Keith. Keith,
Well,
especially Shador Sanders. He's under the microscope more than any other quarterback this week for the simple reason, and you know this to be
he's a
true.
fifth round draft
Kevin,
pick. Why should he be under a microscope?
I'll tell you why. Kevin Stefanski would rather have Dylan Gabriel starting than Shador
Agreed.
Sanders, not even close. But
Agreed.
because Shador took over for one game and they got a W, if he went to Dylan Gabriel this week, there would be such a backlash. He hates Shador. Why this? Why that? Because Dylan Gabriel, let's be honest, too, he hasn't done anything to earn a starting quarterback position. He's a young quarterback. He's developing, but he hasn't played any games like, wow, Dylan Gabriel's our
Neither
guy.
one.
But
Exactly.
If Shador Sanders plays a mediocre game and the 49ers win, they're going back. You're hearing it from me now. I'm telling you, Dylan Gabriel's going to start the following week. So
I don't think
he's
so.
not sticking with Shador Sanders going forward unless Shador Sanders is winning these games.
I disagree for one reason. If Stefanski wants to keep his job, and if he doesn't keep his job, the next guy who comes in better be willing to give Shadur Sanders a chance, a real chance,
Do you get
because
the
the
feel?
owner loves him.
Do you get the feeling that Kevin Stefanski just, in a sense, doesn't give a darn? He's
That's the case.
thinking
He'll
to
be
himself,
fired.
you want to fire me, fire me. I'm going to just do what I want, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try to cooperate with the owner to a point, but I'm not, I'll do what I want to do. If he fires me, he fires me. Screw it. Shador Sanders was forced on Kevin Stefanski, forced on him. Let's be honest about it. Yeah, the night of the draft, you see Stefanski and the Cleveland GM. They didn't look happy. They were like basically making excuses why they drafted Shador Sanders. That was the owner. And you want to know something that called down and told him to draft him, but you want to know something?
I know
The
that.
owner did the right thing. In the fifth round of the draft, the owner left them alone, let them do the thing. And by that point, the owner says, look, this is the fifth round. Draft the darn guy now. I want
I
him
don't disagree.
drafted.
I said I was down on Shadur Sanders as far as being a high draft pick. But in the fifth round, he's a bargain because he's got some upside if somebody gives him a chance. The problem, though, Jack, is similar to what Arch Manning's gone through in college, right? If he doesn't go out there and put up freaking Tom Brady numbers, he's failed. And that's not the case. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Dan Marino. He's not even freaking Bernie Kosar, maybe. I don't know. But he's going to be or can be a winning quarterback in the NFL without the huge numbers.
But we get spoiled. We see Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud have great rookie years. Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Even though Bo Nix, the team was set up for him to manage more than,
Let's look at the talent around him as well.
Right. But these young quarterbacks, they deserve a chance to grow. But with that said, Keith, the league is different than it was years ago. You stick with the guy long term and keep saying, give him time to grow, give him time to grow. Guess what? You sometimes waste 3 years with a guy. And then
he moves on.
Look, Mitch Trubisky, third overall pick in the draft. They kept sticking with him, and it turned out to be a waste of time for the Bears. You kind of wonder a little bit about Trevor Lawrence, just a little bit.
Better this year.
But Trevor Lawrence is good enough to be a little better than average, for his career. And maybe you can win with Trevor Lawrence. But I remember the Jets, Geno Smith, his rookie year, the team went 8-8. And at the end of the season, I'm asking myself, is Geno good enough to be our franchise quarterback? My answer was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So they stuck with him a little longer, and it just didn't work out.
It's going to be interesting to watch, and it's going to be very polarizing because there's going to be no middle ground with Shadur Sanders, except with guys like me and maybe you. But everybody's going to be he's either going to be a huge success every time he does something well, or a huge failure every time he does something bad.
I'm not sure whether it was you who said it or not. Players have a say, especially leaders. The leader on the Browns is Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett seems to like Shador a lot, making a big deal, having his back. And if you're the coach, you don't want to lose the team. You don't want to lose the team. So Shador's going to play against the 49ers. Let's see how he plays. If he plays a terrible game, Dylan Gabriel's starting the following week.
That's fair.
All
right. Yeah. This is a good transition. So talking about quarterbacks who needed time to get better, and Daniel Jones has been very polarizing, at least even if only on this show. I give him more credit than you do. I think you feel like we might have seen a real Daniel Jones at the end.
I know the real Daniel Jones isn't an elite quarterback, but he's
not
good enough.
Elite.
Not elite. But if they're foolish enough, he's a free agent, to give him a mega contract. They're complete idiots if they do that.
Stories yesterday, by the way, Minnesota's interested in the offseason about talking to him again.
But that would be tampering. Yeah, well.
In the offseason. That's when he's available. I'm not talking about now. I believe he's going to be looking for a new contract at the end of the year, right?
I mean, the Colts are good fit. Listen, the Colts won those early games because of Jonathan Taylor primarily, and Daniel Jones played very well within the system.
He played really well
within the system there. I mean,
agreed.
That's why he's good enough. Daniel Jones is good enough to be the Colts starter in the future. Okay?
Yeah.
But Daniel Jones's absolute ceiling would be to be another Jared Goff. Very good, pretty good quarterback, but not elite. That's his ceiling.
I would think that's not a bad ceiling. I never been
not at all, but that's the ultimate ceiling, Keith.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Off of last week's Texans performance against one of the top two quarterbacks in football, is today a good barometer. Is if Daniel Jones steps up and plays well, I guarantee you the Texans are going to stop Jonathan Taylor tomorrow or Sunday.
Yeah, Daniel Jones isn't going to go out and beat the Texan defense. He's not going to.
So you think
he might play well managing the game. He might play well, but Jonathan Taylor is going to have to run the ball well. Or if they stack the box to stop Jonathan Taylor and they give Daniel Jones some extra opportunities, yeah, he's certainly capable of passing in.
My question is, I think the Texans do stop Jonathan Taylor only because they're not going to let him beat him. I'm not going to let him beat him either. As much as I think Daniel Jones can play in his league, I don't think he's elite. But the smart money says you stop Jonathan Taylor and make Daniel Jones beat you, right? You wouldn't argue that. If he finds a way to win this game after they clamp down on Jonathan Taylor, don't we have to give him some more credit?
Let's see how the game develops. Let's see how the Colt defense does. Keep in mind, in the last game against the Chiefs, in the last 4 possessions,
you haven't answered my if.
They didn't get one first down. It depends how the game goes. I mean, it might be a defensive struggle. And
doesn't matter.
16-13.
I don't care that you don't think your quarterback ever comes into play in a 16-13 game? He sure he does. He still has to manage to get more points than the other team. So if he goes out and beats what I think is the best defense in football, I haven't seen a better performance than that all year. Maybe it's an aberration, but I don't think it is. They got guys up front, they got guys in the linebackers, and they got the best shutdown cornerback in football, in my mind, in Stingley. If he goes out and beats this team, and again, if Jonathan Taylor goes off, well, then I got nothing to talk about. I want to know if you're going to give Daniel Jones credit when they go out and beat this team. I don't care if it's 16.
I'm giving him credit now. He's played well. He's not an elite quarterback.
I'm not asking you to say.
Where's this discussion headed? He's not as good as the second tier of top quarterbacks led by Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert. He's not as good as those guys.
Let me make this a bigger blanket question for you, because again, you've given Daniel Jones a little bit of credit as the season's gone on, but it's always like a backhand compliment. You've always got a way to give him a little slap at the same time. If he goes out and wins the Super Bowl, is he an elite? Not an elite quarterback. Is he a really good NFL quarterback?
Oh yeah, they win the Super Bowl without question. Look, you talk about the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. I know Lamar Jackson isn't playing like that right now, but he's hurt. And let's assume he's hurt. Okay? Yeah, well, listen, I said Daniel Jones's ultimate ceiling. That's what I said.
I'm going to defend Jack a little bit.
Listen to me. If Daniel Jones puts it all together, the very best he can turn out to be is another Jared Goff, who is not an elite quarterback. I'm sorry. That's why the Rams traded him and moved on from Goff, even though he had taken him to a Super Bowl, and they went with Matthew Stafford. You have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Matthew Stafford. They form one group of the elite quarterbacks. Then the next trailing pack, in no particular order, is Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert. And you want to know something? Josh falls a little behind that second pack. He heads the third pack.
And I don't think it's an ignorant statement at all. Let me defend Jack a little bit here, because I will tell you what I think, because I've always been a proponent that Daniel Jones could play at a much higher level than he ever did with the Giants if he got to the right situation. He's in the right situation. And I'm going to tell you, and Brian, I know you're going to disagree with me, and you'll probably tell me this is an ignorant statement. I don't care. Daniel Jones' ceiling in the right situation is higher than Jared Goff's. He's more athletic, and he can do more things in your offense than Jared Goff can do. And you saw what Jared Goff can do yesterday when they nearly fumbled that. That team's got to stop calling trick plays because they don't need to do it. But I think his ceiling if you put them in the right situation, both of them, and Jared Goff's in the right situation for him now, right? Daniel Jones stays here, goes to Minnesota, wherever he is, he's in the right system. He's got a much higher ceiling than Jared Goff. I'm just saying. I think that's
There was a time early on when Dan Campbell wasn't too pleased with Jared Goff. Okay, keep that in mind. Goff's a good quarterback. Don't. I'm not saying he's not.
he is. I'm not considering either.
There's nothing wrong if you're the 10th, 11th, or 12th best quarterback in the NFL. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's being a good quarterback. You could go to a Super Bowl. You could win a Super Bowl with a quarterback like that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Daniel Jones, if he puts it all together, yeah, maybe he could get down the range of 10, 11, 12 best quarterback in the NFL. And you know what? You can make the argument he's done that this year. You could easily make that argument.
I would as well. Let's not forget Jared Goff. And Brian, I didn't know you back when this trade was made, but I know, as not being a Lion fan, and I know some other Lion fans who were not happy when Matthew Stafford was traded and Jared Goff came in here, because the Rams quit on Jared Goff. They did not think Jared Goff could take them to the top. And I'm not sure that he can take the Lions to the top. I'm not sure.
Quarterbacks pick up the game. You know who I didn't mention? Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, I can argue, is a top 10 quarterback, at this point in his career.
Yeah, that's fair. Look, we can argue this all. That's a whole show.
And I'm not even considering the young quarterbacks who I don't rate yet. I want to see more from them. Jaden Daniels is a one-year wonder. C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams. Let's see how they develop. Bo Nix.
Agreed.
Let's see how they develop. With Minnesota, I mean, you mentioned before with getting Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones would, as it's turned out, has been an upgrade over J.J. McCarthy. Now, I know you were somewhat high on J.J. McCarthy. I wasn't high on him at all, really, based on what I...
I'm not willing to quit on him either, though. See, this is the problem, though. I was high on J.J. McCarthy. Has he played as well as I thought he played, even as a rookie, because he didn't play last year? No, he hasn't, but he's also been injured. The team hasn't played as well as a whole, and it's not all the quarterback. But we quit and we say, he's not as good as we thought he was after playing 8 games. I mean, come on. I mean, if we made that decision we've missed out on a lot of great quarterbacks if we made decisions on them after 8 games or 1 season. So again,
look, I agree. At the end of the season, no one was complaining, as far as the Viking fans, the supporters, from them moving on from Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones and going with J.J. McCarthy. Now, it's easy to say, well, they should have franchised Darnold, this or that. But Darnold had 2 terrible games to close the year. He was pathetic in those 2 games.
Yeah.
And it kind of erased much of what he did before in the minds of many. And Daniel Jones was a piece that the Vikings would have liked to have kept around, but it wasn't enough for him to start over J.J. McCarthy, going into the season. As it's turned out, it's worked out for Sam Darnold at Seattle and Daniel Jones at Indianapolis, and it hasn't worked out with J.J. McCarthy. Now, it's easy to say he's been injured, but this is 2 years in a row. It's unfortunate. It's not his fault he's gotten injured. But if you're going to have a quarterback that's going to be injury prone throughout his career, has a hard time seeing the field, as unfortunate as it is what happened to the player, you can only wait on a player so long.
No, I get it, but 8 games is not indicative of how a guy's career might go. I do agree.
Not at all.
I do agree they've got to make a decision faster today than they had to, 2 decades ago. They could wait on a guy, and they can't do that today. I get that. It's going to be interesting to see if Minnesota quits. We do. If Minnesota quits on, and I'm going to have to make my picks on the fly here. If Minnesota quits on J.J. McCarthy, it will be interesting in the offseason to see if they do some dancing with Daniel Jones. It might be an interesting.
I think he's going back to the Colts unless the Colts implode.
He should.
Daniel Jones will be back there, and I think we're thinking of a Sam Darnold type contract unless Daniel Jones plays well in the playoffs. I mean, let's see what he does going forward. Daniel Jones, I'll say it again, is a competent NFL quarterback, and that sounds like I'm insulting him by saying competent. You can win with Daniel Jones, even though I don't regard him as a difference maker, but I wouldn't pay him like the Packers pay Jordan Love. And you kind of wonder, the Packers are winning with Jordan Love, but when we talk about the top quarterbacks, I don't even think of Jordan Love. I don't even think about him. He doesn't even enter my mind until this moment.
Every time he throws up a great game like he did yesterday, Jordan Love pops up. All of a sudden he's a top 10 quarterback, right? Then he has 3 bad games in a row or mediocre games in a row. And he's a guy you can start to make a decision on because he's been around a while and he should be much more consistent than he is. That's a good one. Let's do our college picks. I don't have our. I don't know. Last week I think you were 1 and 2. I'll regroup when we see it again. I don't have my notes.
I've been so bad. If I tanked it, I couldn't do worse. I do better if I tried to tank it. That's how bad it's been.
I'm probably going to stay in the top 25 today because that's all I can see here. But that's fine. Go ahead. Give me your pick.
Okay. I'm going to take Indiana and give the 27.5 points to Purdue at Purdue. Indiana's only had one close game, it seems, against Penn State that they pulled it out. And that was a fired-up Penn State team at Penn State. But I think Indiana's going to roll over Purdue. Alabama and Auburn, great rivalry. Alabama loses their last game. I only have to give 5.5 points to Auburn, and I'm going to do that. Give the 5.5, take Alabama. Great rivalry. It's not a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot of points to give in a game like that.
That's a big game for the college football playoff, too. Alabama loses that game somehow. They're going to be in trouble.
Now, I know Ohio State is thirsting for revenge. Since the opening game against Texas, which was a close game, they've rolled over everybody.
They want
to beat Michigan so terribly. They want to stop Michigan, but the game's at Michigan, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to take Michigan with the 9.5 points. They've beat them the last few times they played. They seem to have Ohio State's number. Ohio State wanted to win last year just as bad.
I think you're just trying to kiss up to Brian now because he.
No, I'm going to take Michigan with the 9.5.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to take. Listen. All the controversy swirling around Lane Kiffin. Everybody thinks they're distracted or whatever. We're going to find out tonight, tomorrow, what Lane Kiffin's doing, and I think he's leaving Mississippi. We'll find out. I still like Ole Miss today, -7.5 at Starksville. Tough place to play with Mississippi State. But I think that team's going to come to play, and they need. Listen, this team needs to win this game. If they don't win this game and Lane Kiffin skedaddles, they're going to drop them out of the playoff. I guarantee you they will, even though they're in the 7th spot now. I'll take Ole Miss minus the 7.5. I don't think I've done this all year, but I am going to take this team right here, the U of Miami, against Pittsburgh. I don't think I've taken them all year.
You like Carson Beck after all. I knew that.
Miami needs style points today. They need to not just beat Pittsburgh, but they need to beat them convincingly because they've got 3 different scenarios they can get into the ACC championship game, but they need 2 other teams to lose in each one of those scenarios. Their best path to the playoff is somehow this committee wants to get them in as an at-large. They need style points today. I think they win big, or this weekend. I think they win big. And another big game, Texas A&M and Texas. A&M has been rolling. Texas keeps falling out of the playoff picture. They beat the number 3 team in the country today, or this weekend. I think they're right back in the playoff picture if Oklahoma, if Alabama, if some of those teams falter. Miami, Texas, the committee is showing they want these teams in there because they haven't dropped them out of contention. So I like Texas getting points at home against number 3 Texas A&M. I believe they're getting 2.5. So on the fly, who did I take? I took Ole Miss, Miami, and Texas as my underdog this week. And we'll see. We'll catch up on where we stand overall. Neither one of us is doing all that good. I'm trying to get to 500. Good thing I don't bet these same games I pick here for crying out loud, or I have to go back to work for crying out loud. So, and Jack, any boxing news or anything you want to catch us up on before we cut the cord today.
Yeah, Thanksgiving weekend is a little quiet. There's a December picks up a little bit. Of course, the drums are going to be beating for Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua. It's intriguing because supposedly it's going to be for real.
When?
And December 19th. And can Jake Paul come up with any sort of a fight? You know, he might give Joshua a few rounds. I'm not discounting it the way other people do. They think Joshua's just going to come out, hit him on the chin, knock him out in a round, 2 rounds the most. And I see Jake Paul being pesky, giving some resistance. But you wonder, will the Jake Paul bandwagon keep rolling if he gets beaten in 5, 6 rounds? It could, because boxing's an entertainment business. And I mean, that's all it is.
I'm starting to think you could beat Jake Paul. I mean, he couldn't beat a 78-year-old Mike Tyson for crying out loud.
Well, he did. He outpointed Mike Tyson. Whether he carried him
I'm
or
sorry.
not.
He didn't beat him up. Let's put it that way.
He liked Mike Tyson, you know, and maybe decided the wise thing would be just to outbox him. I don't know.
So this fight coming up, Joshua and Paul, if I got to pay $99.99 to watch this fight,
No, it's going to be on Netflix. It's going to be on Netflix.
Cool. Good. I hope they learned from their last fight.
There are other fights too for hardcore fans. December 6th, Lamont Roach against Isaac Cruz, but you know, a pay-per-view show by the PBC. You have to be a hardcore fan to, you know, really like those fights. And
fair enough.
Yeah, and there was a good show, obviously, last weekend, you know, with Devin Haney beating Brian Norman, David Benavidez stopping Anthony Yarde. It was a quality pay-per-view show. Jesse Bam Bam Rodriguez was outstanding, beating Fernando Martinez in their super flyweight title bout. And maybe Bam Bam Rodriguez, he joins the elite in the top 5 as a pound-for-pound fighter now.
Lots of boxing news from Jack today. And catch up on all the boxing news with Jack and Frank Laterzo on Monday nights at 7 with Glove Fist.
In a few weeks, my Michael Spinks book might be coming out very soon, and I'm going to be beating the drums for that on each show.
Let's get Michael on the show. We'll promote the book.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. We'll have some fun with that. I'm looking forward to that book, as I've told you since you told me you're writing it. I'm a big Michael Spinks fan, so I'm happy to. I'll even buy that one in hardcover, Jack. I don't buy anything off my Kindle. I'll even buy your book in hardcover.
I was introduced also to the world of audio, where people listening in, I can't hack audio myself. I need a book, but some people don't like to read an actual book. They like it in audio. So I'm going to
I'd like to listen to you read your
as well. And
I think people would love to listen to you for 3 or 4 hours read your Michael.
Well, that's not me. No, that won't be my voice. No way. I mean,
we'll have Sonia read your book. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so catch Glove Fist, catch Jack tomorrow morning on the debate show with James and Brian. And what else is going on? Catch me Sunday morning on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Guys, not a hostage video I'm filming today. I'm just away in Colchester, Connecticut. I plan on escaping from here later on this morning. We'll be back in the studio Sunday morning. So it's been a lot of fun. Jack, thank you for another lively hour, which we try to give you guys every week. And we'll see you at our various times. I'll be with Jack for a while Sunday morning as well on the Big Football Show. See you guys later. Have a great weekend. Peace for Jack.
Happy Thanksgiving, all.
Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Bye, guys.